Hello everybody and welcome to another review. One of the most beloved real-time strategy games returns to glory with Age of Empires 4, putting you at the center of epic historic battles that shape the world, featuring both familiar and innovative new ways to expand your empire in vast landscapes with stunning 4K visual fidelity. Age of Empires 4 brings an evolved real-time strategy game to a new generation. Return to history. The past is prologue as you are immersed in a rich historical setting of 8 diverse civilizations, from the English to the Chinese to the Delhi Sultanate, in your quest for victory. Build cities, manage resources, and lead your troops to battle on land and at sea in 4 distinct campaigns with 35 missions that span across 500 years of history, from the Dark Ages right up to the Renaissance. Choose your path to greatness with historic figures. Live the adventures of Joan of Arc in her quest to defeat the English, or command mighty Mongolian troops as Genghis Khan in his conquest across Asia. The choice is yours, and every decision you make will determine the outcome of history. This is a game I've really been looking forward to. I used to play the original back in the 90s when my brother bought it for me, and I was hooked on it ever since. Had it in a little like CD jewelry case, and we haven't actually had a sequel since 2005, so we're 16 years in the making to get this sequel. Now, I'm going to quickly go through all the details as I normally do. So looking at the specs, it's Windows 10 or Windows 11, and then the minimum requirements are an Intel i5 6300U or a Ryzen 5 2400G. It needs 8 GB of RAM in memory, and it needs an Intel HD 520 or Radeon Vega 11 graphics card. Now it's DirectX version 12, and you need around 50 GB of available space. Recommended specs are an Intel i5 6-core 3.6 GHz or Ryzen 5 1600 CPU, 16 GB of RAM, and an NVIDIA 970 or a Radeon 570 GPU. Now, in regards to optimization, I've had no issues playing the games, no frame drops, no crashes, no real bugs in regards to the actual performance in the way it plays. So I have to say it plays really well, but what would you expect? It's Microsoft that's making it. I'm playing it on Windows. You'd expect it to work on their platform flawlessly, and it does. Now, in regards to the pricing, on Steam it's £49.99 or $59.99. We can get the deluxe package at £69.99 or $79.99. It is also on the Xbox Game Pass for PC, which means if you do have the Game Pass, you can go onto the Xbox app and download it free of charge. Now, Greenman Gaming does have a 12% discount on it at the moment, and I've got a link in the description for you. It's an affiliate link, so you won't pay anything extra, but anything you do buy through it does help the channel out a little bit as well. So gameplay, there's 4 campaigns. You have the Norman campaign, the 100-Year War, the Rise of Moscow, and the Mongol Empire. They've got a lot of extensive missions in it, and they are really good missions. I've really enjoyed playing them. A nice touch within the campaign is before you start a mission, it gives you a little bit of an introduction to that particular mission. So let's say you're doing the 1066 Battle of Hastings. You get a little intro. In this case, it is live footage of the area in present day, but what they do is they kind of put in the troops that would have been involved in that area at that time, and it basically tells you the importance of that battle and the importance of you getting your objective in that particular mission. Now, in other missions, it will sometimes do almost like a strategic view of the map and then basically give you a link between what you've just completed and what's about to happen. And it's almost like a bit of a history lesson, but it's not so much of a documentary style history lesson. It's just more to set the scene and give you an idea of what's coming up and the importance of each battle. And it's a nice little touch. It's not something I recall happening in the previous iterations of the game, and kind of let you know the importance of that battle. And it's quite nice, especially if it's not a battle you're aware of, or if you don't really know the history behind it. It does really well of kind of setting the scene and the importance of the battle you're about to face. I'd say my favourite one is probably the Norman campaign, just mainly because being British, it kind of follows a little bit of the campaign within the UK. Now, you have 8 civilizations, and obviously you can do skirmish missions and multiplayer as well, where there is no set kind of objectives. You're just there and you're fighting your enemies to be the last man standing. Now, I didn't see a map editor that I could tell, which is a shame because it has been in previous iterations, but I do believe that is something that they will be bringing in at some stage. And they've already said that there will be mod support for the game as well. So it kind of would make sense that they would bring in a map editor and other things if they're already supporting mods going into it. Now, the mod side of Age of Empires historically has always been very good and brought new life to the game far after finishing the campaigns and playing the skirmishes. So it is something that I'm interested to see what the modding community will bring to this particular title. Anyone that's played Age of Empires before will feel very comfortable here because it is following the same kind of formula that it always has done, which is a good and a bad thing. Because obviously what made Age of Empires great is the formula in which this is following. That being said, I do wish after 16 years they kind of innovated a little bit more, maybe brought in a few new features, something a little bit different to freshen it up a bit more as well. But I am being a little bit picky there because all of the features I do like about Age of Empires are included in this game. And it is a classic RTS, so it's a little bit different to a lot of strategy games that come out today. And this is the type of strategy game I enjoy. So what do you do when you go into a mission? Well, if you're on the campaign, you generally start with a kind of small base of operations along with a few troops, and then you've basically got to build up and get the resources you require to finish the mission and the objectives that you have been set. Now, in a skirmish mode, it follows a similar kind of formula as the campaigns, except for you don't have set objectives and you start with the bare minimum. So you'll have a town center, some villagers, and with those villagers you can then start to gather resources, so food, stone, gold and wood. Now, for instance, with the food, there's normally multiple ways of going around it. You can build farms, you can go hunting. Your villagers are also the people that do the building, so to increase your city, the defenses, the walls, the fortifications, and your military buildings like your barracks, your archery range and your stables. Now, certain buildings will also allow you to research new technologies, so whether it increases your training skill of your archers or your swordsmen or anything like that, straight down to researching new ways of farming or gathering resources, cutting wood and things like that. And all these things will help to increase either the speed, capacity or the strength of your units and help you to develop your city and your army quicker. As you pick up a certain amount of resources, you'll also be able to progress through the ages, and every age will have a different kind of look about it. So you'll actually see the advancements through the ages within your city. And each civilization has a very distinct look about it. And I really love the fact that they've managed to differentiate between the different civilizations. And Age of Empires 4 has actually pushed that out further to try and make those differentiations and differences more noticeable. The other thing is each civilization has certain units which are unique to that civilization and have obviously their strengths and weaknesses, which goes even further to create a uniqueness about each civilization. The combat still follows that kind of rock, paper, scissor, earth, fire, water dynamic, which means each unit has a strength and a weakness. So once you start learning those, it means you'll have a better chance of advancing and attacking enemies. An example of this, your spear units are good against cavalry, but not very good against skirmishers, which will generally be able to take them out. So when you know this balance, you can then be more effective in knowing what units to use in what situation and then what to build depending on what you're going to attack. And for those maps with bodies of water, naval combat is a thing, so you can develop ships, which you can also use for transporting troops and also fishing, which then adds another element to the gameplay and the kind of battles that you could be facing. In regards to the age advancement, there are 4 different ages. You can start in the Dark Age, to the Feudal Age, the Castle Age, and then the Imperial Age. Obviously, as you advance to each age, you'll be unlocking new technologies, new troops, and new different ways of fighting your battles and buildings and things like that. So it is something which has always been a staple of the Age of Empires series, and this one's no different. Looking at the sound, it's one of the things that I love about this game is when you're having a battle, the atmosphere and the sounds that you get are just fantastic to the point where you do feel like you're in a real heated battle. The music goes a long way to accompany this as well. But there is one thing missing with the music, and anybody that is a die-hard Age of Empires fan will have this one anthem which will play in their head that they recognise and is kind of the Age of Empires tune. And although it is kind of in the game to a point, it's nowhere near as prominent as it once was, and I think that's a real shame because it is the kind of identifying tune for the series that everybody thinks of when they're thinking of Age of Empires. Music aside, the actual sound of the units and things like that are very similar to previous iterations of Age of Empires as well, and which again isn't a bad thing because it sounds really good, and it's one of those things, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there is a lot of variations between the different civilizations, what the units say, and the noises you hear while they're attacking. When it comes to bugs, now this game does have a few bugs, nothing major, but they are bugs which have plagued the series for a long time now. One of these is unit pathing, whereas when you're moving from one point to another, sometimes the unit can get stuck on something and you have to kind of just move it round. Now, it's not a game breaker, but it is a bit of an inconvenience and a pain, and it is something I wish they would have sorted out by now. The other thing is as well, the AI can be a little bit funny at times. An example of this is they will make these big siege weapons to help them get onto the wall, and that means they don't have to try and destroy the wall to get into the base and attack either the archers on the actual battle emplacements or get in to attack the buildings on the other side of the wall. They build them. I've had it in multiple occasions where they've built, say, 3 of these siege units, but none of the units use them. They basically sit back. All of the archers, the swordsmen and cavalry all charge at the wall. They're completely slaughtered by my archers and defences that are all lined up on the wall. And as soon as they've all died, then the siege weapons come in. They hit the wall, don't do any damage because they've got no kind of destructive power. They're basically just to help get the units over the wall. And then they just sit there and get taken out. Whereas realistically, they should be going in first, and all of the units will then plow into these siege weapons and get onto the wall. So it's little things like that. It doesn't happen that often, but when it does happen, it seems to be a loop. As soon as the AI starts doing it, it just keeps doing that. So hopefully this is something that they can fix in a patch. But other than that, I haven't come across any other issues within the game, and they're only minor kind of little annoyances here and there, and they don't happen all that often. The challenge kind of side of the game is really good. It's got the easy mode, which, to be honest, unless you're very, very new to these type of games, there's no point using because it is ridiculously easy. The intermediate mode, which does give you a decent challenge, and then you've got the hard modes, which increase that challenge even more. So there's something there for anything from the beginners right to the veteran gamers of this type of style of game. And they do sometimes make it very intense and interesting. So there is something there for everybody. Now, in conclusion, if you do like your real-time strategy games and especially your classic RTS games, would I recommend this? 100%. It stays true to form. Unfortunately, it doesn't really break the mold from previous games too much, and it is a bit of a shame considering they've just brought out the definitive editions of the first and the second one as well. So bring them out so close together. I would have liked to have seen them do a little bit more innovation with this title and make it a little bit different and add a few new features in there as well. But it does stay true to form. It is an enjoyable game. I've been loving playing it again. It's scratching that itch that I've been missing for a while in regards to the RTS genre. And with it being free on the Game Pass at the moment, it's definitely something worth trying, especially if it's not a game you've played before. You have no real risk to give it a go, see what you think. If you like it, then great. If you don't, you can just uninstall it and it hasn't cost you a thing. Now, this has been my review of Age of Empires 4. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please hit that like button at the bottom. Feel free to subscribe to this channel to see any more reviews coming out. And I do also stream on Twitch, which I'll put the link in the description as well, so feel free to pop over to that and join in on the fun. I've been CT Tech Gaming. Thanks so much for watching this review, and I'll catch you guys next time.